Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Pop Culture Bible, where I talk about Christian movies, comics, television, and other pop culture items. Either Christian movies that are done through pop culture or pop culture stories that take Christian theology. Today we're going to continue with Risen, and I also have an issue of DC's The Spectre. Ooh. For Risen, I just want to get into as I said, I want to keep these videos fairly short. So in this case, I want to talk it as a DVD release. We'll get into theology more later. For this one, I would say that we have on the video, we have some making of behind the scenes features as well as a feature commentary. The feature commentary is with the writer and creators of this movie, and it provides some great insight of how they made this a cinematic experience, both historically accurate, biblically accurate, but also taking it as a historical fiction. The story, if you're not familiar with it, is about Clavius, who's the Roman military tribune, who is supposed to find the body of Christ. And so he's a fictional character, but it's talking about that in-between time where the body of Christ is now missing and what happened after he was dead and resurrected. And the movie stars Joseph Fiennes as well as Tom Felton and Peter Firth, that are the main actors in the movie. Cliff Curtis from Fear the Walking Dead is also in it as Jesus, which is kind of funny because he plays in The Walking Dead, where it's just about resurrected people, but zombies, a little different. So this movie's special features are really good and they're clean cut. They're fairly short. However, the feature commentary is what makes this a must-have in terms of viewing cinematically and viewing as a movie. Great features and a great movie, and in future videos we'll get into more about what makes this a great movie and also about the theology of the movie. This movie also made about $45 million at domestic box office. That doesn't sound like much, but it was made on a budget of $20 million, so it's actually in the top 10 of Christian based movies at this moment. Okay, so quickly we're going to get into this, which is the Spectre. So for those who do not know who the Spectre is, the Spectre in DC Comics, which is the universe where, for those who are not from the comic side, that's the comic universe as Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, Flash, Green Lantern, Hawkman, the Justice League, Justice Society, Smallville, Supergirl, the Green Arrow. The Marvel stuff is not included. X-Men not included. Spectre is considered the wrath of God. He's considered the angel that is the spirit of vengeance. And the original concept is that he's the angel who brought down Sodom and Gomorrah in these stories. And it's kind of a little hard to understand, but the little summary I can give you is that in this version, Jim Corrigan was an honest cop who couldn't be bought. And he died, and his soul was united to the spirit of vengeance. I know it's a little, it's not theologically makes sense, but in terms of a comic book, this is what the comic book is like. So, most familiar to most people would be a character like Ghost Rider. This would be kind of like in the same genre as that, but amplified by 1,000% in terms of his power level, because he is considered the right hand of God. What makes this issue interesting is if you can see it. So I'll just sort of bring it over here. Whoa, look there. It's the Spectre riding a sleigh with two skeleton reindeer. Sort of a Santa Claus image or Ghost of Christmas Future or something. It's a kind of a cool image. But the comic book itself is basically, in the summary sense, it talks about Jim Corrigan, who is an honest cop who goes and visits a church during Christmas time. And you can see that right there he even uses his magic powers to create the decorations, which the priest says, no, you don't need to do that. And there's a haunting image, I think, right here of the Spectre with the World Trade Center. This comic book was written in 1995, way before World War II, the 9/11 incident. So it's a haunting image, in my opinion, of things to come. And also, in this story, the priest is basically saying, is being asked a question by Jim Corrigan, what would you like to have for Christmas? And he says, a day without death, a day where no one in New York City is murdered. And that, with that image, I think is kind of haunting in a way. So Spectre doesn't go about this with a sort of a Jesus-friendly story of and love everyone and, kind of heal miracles or anything. No, he says, Citizens of New York, if anyone kills anyone, I will avenge you, and then we will kill you. And then the priest kind of goes, oh yeah, that's going to really get people in the spirit of the giving. And so the story continues on with the Spectre basically trying to ensure that no one dies. So, for example, one guy tries to shoot another, and he says basically to him, he says, "God in heaven, have mercy on me," when he's caught. And then Spectre says, "Hypocrite, why should you have mercy when you didn't have mercy?" But luckily, the guy manages to live. And ironically, he says, Jim Corrigan says, why did he do it? He was warned, because this big giant specter in New York City tried to warn everyone, don't do this. And it's interesting how Spectre is trying to use fear to control people and to tell them not to follow God or not to kill people. And it doesn't work for him. And they keep killing each other. So these kids, these little pack of runty teenagers, decide to kill to prove themselves. They tell this other kid to shoot a random stranger, and he almost dies. His soul is departing from him, but the Spectre saves him, so his soul from going to heaven. And so he tells him that what he says is that you will live for one more day, and the pain, I'm going to take it away from you, and I'm going to put your pain and make these other kids feel your pain for the day, and then tomorrow you will die. So at least I honored my agreement that no one died on Christmas Eve. And what happens is that the one kid says, I got no one, and he decides to go to church and to confess his sins. Meanwhile, Spectre says this isn't working, so he decides, I'm going to extend myself to the whole New York City and Salem again. I can stop the murder if I can understand the essence of all humanity. And so he pushes himself further and further until, basically in this shot, he is supposed to be the Spectre, feeling all the emotions of every single living person in New York City, all their and feeling all their thoughts and emotions and feelings and hurt and anguish, but also the love and also the pain. And Spectre says, I felt everything, all the love, all the greatness, all the pettiness, all in the same moment. How can God do this? And basically he's crying there because he's saying, how does God stand this? And it's kind of an interesting moment, the idea that the story is saying that God sees all these petty things happening all at once, all the arguments, big and small, all the murders, big and small. How can he stand it and still let us live and have mercy? And the interesting thing is the next shot is the priest and that kid who shot the other guy, what we talked about, and he says, I will soon die. And what happens is the priest, he confesses his sin to the priest, and the Spectre says, okay, now's the time, you're going to have to pay for your sin, son. And the priest says to him, and he says, he is repentant for his sin. There is such a thing as forgiveness. And he says, this day celebrates hope, that God believes in us even if we do not believe in God. And the idea that Christmas, that one of the morals of Christmas is the idea that forgiveness and grace was born that day. Ooh. Kind of interesting for a DC comic to go there. So what the Spectre does is he ends up giving back the life to the innocent man who was almost killed, and he steals the life of the years that the teenagers had and makes them babies again. That's how he plays. But also by doing that, he gives them a second chance because now they're babies and they can start all over again. Really kind of weird, twisted Christmas story, journey into mystery, a house of mystery. Anyways, it's a fun little story. Again, asking a kind of a fun, deep, logical question, which is, how can God, show love and mercy? And the answer subtly says Christmas, which points to Jesus, actually, interestingly enough. All enough for now. You can think about this more later. Talk to you soon. Bye.